Welcome to episode 26 of Inside the Video Store. Bit of a different show this week. It's a bit of a weird week. We have no major delivery. We have no what's in the box. So, let's take a chance. It's a 6-month mark of Inside the Video Store. It's 6 months since our very first episode. So I thought, let's do something a little bit different. Let's actually go inside the video store and look at a few of the different aspects that I might not have covered before in the previous 6 months. First things first, you must apologize for my microphone, which isn't as great as the one I use when sitting down, but such is life. So here we are. This is the runway. This is the main part of the video store. This is the aisle that gets the most foot traffic for years and years and years. The general stance of people has been run about this location here, because of course in this section right before me we get the brand new releases. This is everything that comes out on release day. So for years and years, for probably 25 years, 26 years, this has been the go-to destination for most customers. I tend to organize it by weeks. So, for example, this week's films, although there isn't any, the only film that came in this week was Unicorns, which is a very, very good British drama with Ben Hardy and a stunning debut from Jason Patel. I thoroughly recommend Unicorns. Brilliant performance. Brilliant film. But yeah, normally I would organize it by weeks. So have 1 week's films here, the previous weeks go here, the previous weeks go here, the previous weeks go there. That's a month. So, you get 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, maybe 4 to 5 months worth of new releases in this section here, organized by month. So when people come in, they know that in this horizontal or vertical line here, you have the new releases, then they gradually get older as weeks go by. So yeah, most people will browse this chronologically. In previous years, it's gone down to here. In pre-2021, it went down right to here. I mean, that was the value of the new release wall. It was the king. It was 95% of our rental revenue, which is a vast amount. Now, though, it's dwindling. It's gone down to about, I'd say about 50 to 60% of rental revenue, because customers are evolving. We don't have the same number of customers that want the brand new releases. They're happy to pay $5.50 on Sky Go or $5.49, $4.49 on Amazon Prime. They're happy to do that. Fair enough. So we don't have that. Most of my customers now are they're cinephiles. That they want selection. They want older films. They want stuff that maybe you can't get anywhere else. But yeah, this is the new release section. As you can see, there's still plenty of traffic. I mean, what's out here? Sasquatch Sunset is out. It came out last week. Furious of Blu-ray is out. Sting is out. First Omen is out. La Chimera is out on DVD, which is very cool. Hundreds of Beavers is still out on loan, which is just crazy. It's relentless. And yeah, as we go down, it gets a little bit less popular, but Aquaman Blu-ray is out on loan there. What else we got out on loan? Hey, one for Liam. Eating Miss Campbell is out on loan. Oh yeah, the Talk to Me Blu-ray. That is one of my go-to recommendations for your sort of generic but well-made horror movie. But yeah, the new release will kind of hold its own still. I still pretty much get in the majority of new releases that come in. But like I say, this week, a very peculiar week for the grown-ups. We just literally got one film. That was all that was released, but worth getting. And then for the kids, of course, we got the Garfield movie over here. So this is out this week as well. Kids' films are just to the left of the camera. You won't be able to see them fully until I probably insert a dramatic panning shot like this. All the kids' films are £1 to rent, which is just obscenely cheap. But then I think, well, it's a good thing. It brings parents in. You can't refuse a film for £1, especially in the kids' holidays, which have just finished today in Merseyside. So yeah, that's the new release wall. That's the new release wall. Then above my head, I don't know, you can't see the furthest bridge there, but this furthest bridge here we've talked about in the past. It's the British films that fell either side of the millennium. Those strange, weird British films, although one did rent out yesterday. I'm going to get it for you. Let's have a look. Here it is. Yes, the wonderful Mr. Caldecott's, Mrs. Caldecott's Cabbage War. A great favourite of everybody's. Brilliant cast though. You know, you got Pauline Collins, Peter Capaldi, John Alderton, Isla Blair, Tony Robinson. So yeah, Mrs. Caldecott's Cabbage War. That's a goer. So yeah, you got the British films here. On the flip side of that, you got the A's. Now you see right above our heads, as we look here, is a network of shelves that basically carry most of the films of what I've referred to in the past as the basic store inventory. Stuff that's, you know, your generic thrillers, comedies, blah, 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 from 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, noughties. Things that don't belong in a specific section, you know, they don't belong in a director's section or a label section, stuff like that. So here we start at A. Up here, we got some really cool films, like 187 with Samuel Jackson, Across the Universe, which I'm a really big fan of, Acts of Love with Dennis Hopper, which was a complete obsession for one of my customers, who I think had a crush on Amy Irving or something like that, because he rented it probably in the region of 14 times. And yeah, obviously we extend around there to American Pie, which 88 are putting it on UHD in the next couple of weeks, I think, aren't they? So yeah, that extends around there. Then we have, you can just about catch the westerns in there, can't you? We did a feature on westerns recently. We did the spaghettis on the other side over here. These are your standard westerns. You know, your stuff that doesn't fall into specific actors categories. So what do we got? We've got stuff like, what can I pull out? What's a good? Well, Charlie One Eye, for example. That's a good one. Some TV westerns as well that aren't really available as they used to be. You know, stuff like, I love these stuff. You know, stuff like Vinegar with Sam Elliott, which is really, really cool. Desperate Trail. These are all made for TNT with Sam Elliott, which is another great TV western. And yeah, just some more contemporary stuff like Jane's Got a Gun with Natalie Portman. The Lonesome Dove movies are up here as well. Obviously things like Mix Cutoff. So yeah, that is the westerns. Progress down one bridge, and we have an unusual collection of really good producers and directors. We have a Woody Allen section. Every one of his movies, all chronologically ordered. I do love Woody Allen, and I know he has his naysayers, but I am forever a fan. Then we have, well, big talking point at the moment, we have a Russ Meyer section. And of course, the big gossip at the moment is that Severin has struck a deal with the Russ Meyer estate, and that sometime in the future there will be a Russ Meyer box set on Blu-ray, which is amazing because these Russ Meyer films sit directly under that light, and that light has just faded these spines to hell. But yeah, hopefully soon the likes of Up will be out on Blu-ray, which will be very exciting. Then we kind of got just it's a Roger Corman section, but it's not a Roger Corman section, because how do you take 500 films of one producer and put them into a like 30 film section? So there's just a smattering of Roger Corman themed stuff. Obviously The Intruder has to be there because it's Roger Corman's best film with William Shatner. And also the Demi stuff, things like, you know, Crazy Mama, for example. Some of the really recent 101 Blu-ray is a Demi film, Caged Heat. So yeah, that is that bridge. Then by the time we come over here, we're pretty much in generic ABC territory. Again, what you did, it's still curated. That's the most important thing. It's still curated. So you're not having everything there. There are rules. You can't put every film ever made in the B section because it's just impossible. So you do have to have some kind of um, just some kind of logic to how popular things will be and whether things will be asked for in the future. So that you have to keep a copy of Michael Antonioni's Blow Up. You have to keep that. You have to keep a copy of, Bob and Carol and Ted and Alice. It's essential that you have these films available for people. But then you may say, well, Dave, but do you really need a copy of Body of Evidence with Madonna? But yes, you do, because it was pivotal to the erotic thriller movement in the early 90s. And then you also have films that you think that you hold in high regard, but you think they may gather momentum as time moves on. Because you've got to realize that some films, when they first came out years and years and years ago, they drifted under the radar. And it's only today, with the advent of Blu-ray and UHD, that some films are getting a second wind. Thanks a lot to podcasts like the great one with Brian Sauer and Elric, like the Pure Cinema podcast, which is brilliant. Listening to it today, they did listening to the old episode where they did 101 most underrated movies, and there's some amazing films there. And you do look at these and you think, well, one day, stuff like Boiler Room, for example, a great underrated thriller from the 90s. You think that one day this film may well get a second wind and could well become a cult film, or finally find the audience that it deserved. Originally, things like Breach, which is one of Chris Cooper's best films. It's an amazing film, but never really found an audience on its release. I pulled this one out before, but I will do it again. Black Cat Run, just a brilliant, brilliant thriller. I do think that in years to come, that will find an audience. Similarly with Black Dog, which I think is a really, really good action film. So yeah, that's taken us to here. I'm going to switch the camera over now. We'll take a look at the director's section. Director's section. Now, this isn't perfect. I set this up probably 20 years ago with the directors at the time I was into, and the directors I felt that should have a place represented. Obviously, time makes you a quite different person. I'm into different people now a lot of the time, but I have managed to jiggle it around a bit so it does kind of represent a general, greatest directors who have ever lived and are living. So about 50 filmmakers here. It's not perfect. There are a few places that you probably think, well, why does Fred Olen Ray have his own section? With Bikini Airways. Does Ken Russell really deserve to live next door to Fred Olen Ray? But yeah, I think he does, because that's the great thing about this place, is that you're not pigeonholed. Is that you can rent The Music Lovers by Ken Russell, but then you can also rent The Phantom Empire by Fred Olen Ray, just by moving your finger 6 inches to the left, which is wonderful. That's great. It's the whole anti-algorithm aspect of the store. So yeah, it's a variety of people. I have obviously taken people out and put people in as the years have gone by. I think with the advent of streaming, one of the things that's most frustrating is, for me, the way my brain works, which might not be the same as yours, but the way my brain works is that if I see a certain film, say I see The Producers. If I see The Producers and I love it, I'm going to think, who made this film? Mel Brooks. What else did Mel Brooks make? And then I will go on to check out other Mel Brooks films. So Robin Hood, Silent Movie, Spaceballs, etc., etc., etc. But the problem is that in the world of streaming, you can't do that. One, it might not be available on streaming. Two, it might be on a different streaming service. And three, the cost might be just too prohibitive. You might be paying for Prime, but it might be asking you like, I don't know, £4 to rent Life Stinks. And in which case Life would stink. So yeah, that's my main hanger with streaming, because I've done it before. I remember, it sounded quite morbid. The night George A. Romero died, I was at home, and I didn't want to walk round to the shop like I'd ever walk around to the shop. I didn't want to drive around to the shop. The great distance that it is from my house. I don't want to drive around to the shops. I thought, oh, look, forget it. I'll go onto Netflix and I'll type in George A. Romero. There's nothing. So I went onto Prime. They want me to pay for it. And anyway, it was a nightmare. And it got me thinking, this is crazy. If any kids, young people, or people who are really into film want to make their way through a director's filmography, it's virtually impossible on streaming without a lot of effort. So here I thought, let's make it so easy that it's just literally Clint Eastwood, Darren Aronofsky, Tim Burton. It's that easy. And people do. That was one of the things. It's not just some whim that I thought, oh, wouldn't that be cool? People do. I've got a couple of kids at the moment going through the whole filmography of David Lynch. I've had people working their way through recently Ken Russell films that they've been going out. I've also had people working their way through Brian De Palma in recent weeks. So, that's kind of the cool thing about this, in that, we can do little things that make watching films so much easier. If it were me, I think my favorite sections here, I would probably go for either Dario Argento, obviously, because, just an absolute master. I would, if I had to save any 5 directors, I'd say Dario Argento. I'd probably grab on my William Friedkin films, which are here. Xavier Dolan, which again is that is one of the things that I'm fortunate, because literally I have complete and utter control over this place. I can do whatever I want. Xavier Dolan, one of my favorite directors. He would probably not make the top 50 directors list of many people, but to me, I don't know, his films hit me at a really good moment, and I think he's an absolute genius. So yeah, I have a Xavier Dolan section there, and I think his films would have to come with me. David Lynch, obviously. As a fifth director, I honestly don't know. It could be anyone. I would like to say Martin Scorsese, but probably, if I was going to be really really obscure, I'd probably say maybe John Sayles, because no one rents John Sayles films. And it's one of the great things in that no one rents John Sayles films for some reason, but that section will remain there until the day I die, because John Sayles is just a master. And hopefully one day, someone will bend down here and they'll say, oh, City of Hope on Blu-ray. Let me rent that. Lone Star did come in on Criterion, and it has rented out quite well, to be honest. Like, no one's rented that one yet, which is nutty. But one day, and like I say, they're there forever. Well, as long as I'm here. Could be a week. But yeah, so yeah, the director section is important to me, because I do think that it's such a logical way to store films and to have films for people to rent. And yeah, so yeah, really important to me that. Above the director's section, on these 4 shelves here, which I think will be moving after Christmas, but these been here for 20 years, not the same films. Once a film is finished on the new release wall, if they don't fall into a specific category, be it a director, an actor, a genre, like horror, sci-fi, etc., etc., then they will go here. So here, how many films have I got here? Probably a good few hundred. This is like the best of the last 10 years. Best of the last 10 years that don't really fit into any category. So stuff that kind of bridge the gap between here, sorry, it bridges the gap between the new release wall and up above our heads. So before they go up above our heads, but between coming off the new release wall, they will sit here for about 10 years. So you're looking at stuff, some of these stuff is probably a good few years old now. Like Solace, that was a good little thriller with Anthony Hopkins, wasn't it? That's probably 2013, is it? 2014. So yeah, that's right about reaching at the end of its cycle in this section. Then it will go up above our heads. What other stuff? You know, a little bit newer. We've had things like, oh, I don't know. Yeah, Save the Cinema. That came out last year or the year before last. So that will probably stay here for about 7 or 8 years, etc., etc. So that's the logic behind that section there. And then if we come back even further, we start looking at the boutique section, which is kind of like a three-sided piece of heaven. Here we have the 88 Italian collection. Number 1, right down the bottom. Fabulous. Night Train Murders, an amazing film by Aldo Lado. I watched one of his last night, didn't I? There's a new one from Shameless. Who Saw Her Die? Fantastic. George Lazenby. So yeah, Night Train Murders down here. And then we come up all the way to the top with their latest release, which I featured last week on the show, which of course is Orgasmo by Umberto Lenzi, spine number 85. And we have every spine number here, which I'm really, really proud of. I'm not some kind of spine number whore. You know, my whole life doesn't depend on it, but it is pretty cool when you can get a whole collection of films, especially for a section as essential as the 88 Films Italian collection. But let's move the camera again and let's go around the other side to look more at the boutiques. Now here we have 2 shelves of 88. We have kind of a mixture of 88 sort of stuff. Things like the recent Tygon collection films, the Vault collection, which goes from 1 to 13 at the moment. The Slasher Classics collection is here. All present and correct, including the latest one, number 52, Funeral Home, which is sadly without a home because obviously space, the shelf has run out of space. 88 knew this. They knew I only had 51 spaces, but still they continue to make these Slasher Classics collection releases. And then below these 2 shelves, we have Arrow. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 shelves of Arrow in no particular order. Because one of the things with the boutiques, a lot of the time, if there's no spine, you kind of don't really have a way of, you could do it alphabetized, but then you'd have the slip covers next to the non-slip covers, and you'd have, I don't know, like all your Nico Mastorakis films that are there would be mixed up, and all the you know, the Corman Poe films, you know, all those would be all mixed up, and yeah, so I don't have much chaos here, but one of the few chaotic items is this Arrow section here, which is just kind of roughly in any order. One that kind of makes sense, but doesn't really make sense if you catch the drift. So yeah, there we have, as you saw before, on the end here, it's 88 Italian collection, moving around to 288s and 6 shelves of Arrow, with the Arrow overflow being above our heads just here. And then we'll go move around to Vinegar Syndrome and Eureka. Yeah, let's finish off the boutiques just around this corner. Vinegar Syndrome on 2 sides of this fixture here, 2 sides, so the back side and this side, but to save innumerable camera setups, let's just focus on this second side here. Loads of Vinegar Syndrome. Vinegar Syndrome still hasn't really caught on in this shop. It's doing okay. It's doing better than it was, say, 6 months ago. But I think people are a little apprehensive about it. You know, like with Arrow and Eureka, I think they can recognize films. But here, some of the Vinegar Syndrome selections are so obscure, they're kind of reluctant. They don't know what they're going to get, but it's gradually changing. They're gradually warming to it, and they're gradually kind of getting into taking a chance with some of these films. Because, you know, you look at Hell's Trap there, which has just come out on Vinegar Syndrome, and you think, you know, nobody's seen that. Nobody's really seen that. And you think, well, is it going to be any good? Well, no, it's no, it's not going to be any good, really. But it's interesting. It's an interesting piece of Mexican slasher film history, 1989. It's interesting. So it's just about convincing people to take chances. I've spoken about it in weeks gone by, where people don't really take chances anymore. They need that IMDb score to kind of make them relax and make them know that they're going to take a McCall film. But Vinegar Syndrome is all about a lottery. A lot of these films are just a lottery of what you take home and what you will like and what you won't like. But that's part of the fun, I think. So yeah, Vinegar Syndrome is here. Next door to it, we have one of my favorite sections, which is the Masters of Cinema section from Eureka. I started collecting these way back in the day, and there is number one itself, Sunrise. Yeah, remember watching it for the first time, and it was quite something. It came out by Eureka 2005, so this collection has been going for 20 years now. There is lots of gaps in this collection. You know, if you imagine that the new release, the Laurel and Hardy Silence set, is number 294, I reckon there's probably about 100. Yeah, maybe just under 100 missing, I think. But that's okay. I'm going to plug some gaps after Christmas and the New Year, and hopefully, you know, just some I've missed out on as years go by. But yeah, I do love this Eureka section. Some of the cinema in there is just absolutely wonderful. Some really quality obscure films, all of the highest order, and it's just absolutely wonderful. Then just, I don't know, I think it's just an eye shot just above Eureka is the Arrow Academy Noir section, where I have about 30 of the noir releases that they've put out in recent years. But let's take a trip down here. Now, this section I've shown you in weeks on by. If you didn't watch the episode, then I'll just quickly, briefly fill you in. This is the golden era of cinema. Films here are all organized by actor. We have Jimmy Cagney, Katharine Hepburn, Humphrey Bogart, Harold Lloyd, Jack Lemmon, Marilyn Monroe, Audrey Hepburn. It doesn't have every one of their films in each section, but you have a snapshot. You have 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 films that have that actor in the lead role. So Burt Lancaster, there we go. 12 Burt Lancaster films. They're not all his best, but if you want a flavour of Burt Lancaster, then this is where you can gravitate towards. You can watch people by section, like the director's section. When you can follow a filmmaker's career, you can follow an actor's career. You know, you can check out Michael Caine here. You can have a look at Alfie. Then you can look at Educating Rita. And then you can look at maybe something a bit more recent, like Is Anybody There? Which is fantastic. So yeah, I like the way that these golden era stars are put together. It makes sense. It's, again, a lot of this store is about logic. It's about working out what people want to see, where they want to go, and what might interest them. And it's about the brain working in that logical way and thinking, well, if you see Slapshot with Paul Newman, which went out yesterday, you might want to see another Paul Newman film. So maybe rent, you know, Nobody's Fool, or maybe rent the excellent and probably underrated Twilight. So yeah, there's logic to it all, but hopefully when people browse these shelves, they kind of think, yeah, okay, I understand why he's done that. That makes sense. So yeah, the golden era is on these 5, 6 shelves here. Then bottom shelf, we have a bit of messing around. We got The Road to with Bob Hope, all those films. We got a Rodgers and Hammerstein section. You have an Elvis Presley section. You have Marx Brothers section. The Thin Man films are all there. Dennis Potter has a little section. So yeah, it diversifies a little bit. Then what better thing to have above the golden era of cinema than Agfa? You know, such weird and wonderful films like Boris Wishman's movies, and you know, the Zodiac Killer, and some drug stories as well. Wonderful. And Our old friend Rob just brought back Sometimes Martha Does Dreadful Things, and he loved it, which is fantastic because it's the best film in this Agfa collection. Going up a shelf, we have the Noir indicator box sets, the Columbian Noir, the Universal Noir, and all the other indicator box sets. We're so lucky with these indicator box sets because every one is a brilliantly put together wonder. They really are. They're just absolutely perfect. I could lose myself in any one of these box sets because each one is fantastic. I don't know how they keep on doing it. But yeah, absolutely brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Absolutely thrilled with these. So yeah. And then above this, we have the end of the alphabet. So the alphabet that started on the bridges A, B, C above our heads, it's now ending on this side of the shop, having gone around all the way here. It now ends at Z up in this corner here with Zoolander. And yeah, that's also a section here. So we'll do one more setup over there and then we'll see what's left. Look at this side. One of my favorite sides because it's one of the sides that people don't naturally gravitate towards. You've seen this shelf before. This is the Asylum and Sci-Fi original movies. All the classics are there, you know them. I won't go through them again. But yeah, we did a feature on that earlier on in the series, and it's indulgent. I know it's indulgent, but I just love those movies because they're just chewing gum for the eyes, and sometimes that's all you need. Above my head here is the war movie section, still pretty popular, and then just behind that has the martial arts section, which is just growing exponentially. It's I can't believe how mad it's growing, and I think next year we're going to have a really long look at that and think where it's going to go, because it is just becoming this humongous beast of a section that it's almost out of control. But it's great because some of the additions that are going in there are just absolutely phenomenal, and it's brilliant. Leading on from the martial arts section, we have documentaries. Documentaries are one of my favorite sections. I know I've said that with every section, but documentaries is one of my favorite sections, because there's so many things there that have just changed my life, changed my opinions, educated me, and yeah, just been really, really amazing. We start at A here, go down to the corner to I, and then carry on this backside with the rest of them. But yeah, love the documentary section. And then here we have indie. Now, if a corporate guy, a businessman, came into the store and went through, profit and loss and what's renting, what's not, and what should be cut and that kind of thing, the indie section would be the first place to go. The indie section would be the first place to go. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 shelves of indie films, A to Z, with LGBT right to the bottom there. This would be the first to go because no money in it. It's not attractive for people, I guess. It's not attractive for people. When they come to this section, they see pretty much wall-to-wall DVDs, as opposed to the exciting new Blu-rays that come from Indicator, Criterion, Arrow, and 88. They see wall-to-wall DVDs of films they've never really heard of. And I guess it's kind of lost its appeal. However, for me, I just love this part of the shop. I could literally go through this section one by one and be blissfully happy. Just to give you some examples of some of the films that are here. Like I say, any of these I could pick, and I would, when the day comes, and it will come, when unfortunately I have to box this place up and get on out of here because I'm a decrepit old man, then I'm going to keep some, obviously, because quite interested in films. I'm going to keep some. What I'm going to keep, I don't know, but I will have a hard time getting rid of many of the films in this indie section. Stuff like 68 Kill, the film written by Trent Hager and directed by Trent Hager. Just absolutely deliriously dark bit of cinema. Other stuff, well, things down here, films that never really attract people. I don't know why. Shotgun Stories, just love it to bits. Shotgun Stories, what a film. I mean, are these all on Blu-ray? I don't think they are. I'd say probably maybe 50% maybe on Blu-ray. But Goodbye Solo, I mean, what a film. Ramin Barami directed it and wrote it. Brilliant film. I don't know if it's on Blu-ray, but either way, it's a wonderful, wonderful film. I wish I had the money to upgrade all of these films to Blue. But the problem is I don't think many of them would be on Blu-ray. Might be wrong. But yeah, you could run along a lot of these lines. Stuff like Compliance, put out by Soda Pictures, who have long gone. I'd imagine this film is well out of print now, but it's a wonderful film. Wonderful film, very dark. What else have we got here? A Dead Man's Curve. We mentioned this the other week because it ran out. Someone rented it. Matthew Lillard, brilliant film. I do love it. But yeah, the indie section is a passion of mine, and I wish it would rent out a little bit more. I wish it was a little bit more popular. Stuff like Stuart Gordon's Edmund. You know, how can you not love that? Brilliant movie. Brilliant movie. That'll get a boutique release one of these days. I know it, because it's one of those films. You know, stuff like the Mumblecore stuff, like in Memory of My Father. Brilliant. Absolutely fantastic. Then you can drift down even further. Stuff like the John Holmes film based on the life of John Holmes, or certainly part of his life. Wonderland with Val Kilmer. Stunning film. And also the Bobcat Goldthwait film, World's Greatest Dad. I mean, that is a film and a half, isn't it? So yeah, I mean, just gem after gem after gem after gem in this section here. And yeah, it's probably the undiscovered paradise of the shop is just this section of 7 shelves here. And anyone that does stumble across it, I think will be in for a very good time, because there's a lot of good stuff here. So yeah, that is it. We'll take a quick look over here briefly. We've got to go high. I mean, it's such a small shop that you have to go high. We have a ceiling that's probably what, 9 foot, 10 foot. So you have to go up. So whenever you're short of space, the brain part of you says just go up, because you know this here section is MNOPQRST with regard to the basic store inventory, and there's stuff here that you just have to have. You can't get rid of it. And again, as I was saying before, it fits into the old best of the rest kind of thing. What do we got here that's cool? You know, stuff like Times Square that rented out the other week. Times Square, brilliant. Tim Curry. Things that you've got to keep hold of, like Top Secret. Didn't it just get announced for UHD? I think it did. But yeah, most films here are sort of the stuff that does actually rent out quite well. Except this stuff here, stuff like Sweet 16, I don't think is ever rented out. I love that film. I saw that on video when it first came out. It's Pete Postlethwaite in a really, really pervy film. But it's very good. It's really compelling. That's cool. And of course, Suicide Kings, which is just awesome, with Christopher Walken. Do you remember that film? That's amazing. That hasn't had a British release. I had to import that in from Holland. But yeah, another Dutch import that hasn't had a release past VHS in this country. Switchback. Love that film. Brilliant serial killer thriller with Dennis Quaid and Danny Glover. Great stuff. Also, another great serial killer film that kind of didn't do much when it went to the cinema was Taking Lives. But it was pretty cool. It was pretty cool. So yeah, I think my customers hate asking for movies in this section because they're so difficult to get hold of. You know, I mean, literally, you've got to like get the stool and jump up and reach. You know, someone asked for Paris, Texas yesterday, and a bit of a challenge to get it. But you know, if it's here, it's here, and that's the main thing. It doesn't matter where it is. Doesn't matter how hard it is to get to. If it's here, it's here. And even this, everyone's favorite Dan Aykroyd film, Nothing But Trouble. Absolute classic. So yeah, if there's a space, I'll put a DVD there. we're pretty much done, I think. You know, a few bits I haven't gone over, the stuff that kind of sits behind me when I'm doing the show, which is the world cinema section, which runs in country order. So top shelf, you got Central Africa, you got Argentina, Austria, Belgium, Brazil, down to France, Germany, blah, 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 blah. And then bottom shelf, Spain, Sweden, Taiwan, Thailand, Turkey. And then every film portioned into different countries. Very bottom shelf, which I don't think you can see down here, is the full moon section, one of my favorite sections. Section here is British horror films post-millennium. Section there is PM Entertainment new image films, and also a few director spotlights on Jim Wynorski, Fred Olen Ray, Mark L. Lester. This section, as you know, is imports, bottom two shelves. We have a little section for Tempe Video, Vestron Pictures, Severin, which hopefully should be expanding if they ever decide to send me the package I ordered 2 months ago. Sorry, I'm not angry. I'm calm. They said by September the 11th they'll post it out. A week to go. And then we have Culture Shock Releasing, who have gone very, very quiet, have they not? Visual Vengeance, which are active again. They've got a couple of releases lined up for this fall. Then, of course, Roland and Franco on the top there, who will be moving in the new year to new homes because this import section is growing that fast. At the back here, we have the horror section with the lovely Jason mask, which was made especially for us. But yeah, horror section, straightforward, alphabetical. They go, again, like the indie section, the horror section to me is perfect. I don't think there's anything there that I would change, because they're all absolutely wonderful films. It's another one of those sections that I could go through in strict alpha order and watch every one quite happily. I don't think there's any films here that I would go past. I think every one of them is pretty cool, to be honest. Or maybe Cocaine Bear. Yeah. But yeah, so that's pretty good. So horror film goes down to P at the bottom shelf, then we go across from P right the way down to S, then we go to another bridge, which is over here, which I don't think you can see, which is T right the way through to Z. And then all you got left to say is right at the back of the shop here, where I built this unit last winter for the box sets, because it was clear that so many box sets are coming out now, and it's great. But where do you store them? Previously, I stored them, you know, on the shelves above my head, and it was just people had taken films off the shelf, and they were really delicately balanced. So I thought, well, best not do that. So yeah, all the box sets now are stored here. People are welcome to come behind the counter and browse and take a look and see if they fancy cherry picking their way through any one of these. Flesh and Blood, the Pete Walker box set is just going out of print as well, I hear. So yeah, really pleased with how this is coming on. It's got a bit of room, there's a bit of leeway to put some new stuff there in the future in 2025. But all the time you're thinking of ways in which you can kind of adapt the shop to cater for what's coming out in the future. Bit of housekeeping to do. One new arrival this week was this beast. This is the Substitute collection. Massive fan of these films. The first one, of course, had Tom Berenger. 2, 3, and 4 had Treat Williams. And they're great. They are awesome films. However, this is a Region B box set released by Via Vision over in Australia. Pricey little thing as well. And for some reason, the first film, they've included a TV cut, which is butchered. I mean, butchered. You know, when there's a scene with some violence and there's an obvious cut, because you can hear it in the music cue. The music cue cuts like you're taking a needle off a record. So yeah, infuriating. I emailed via Vision. They got back in touch within 24 hours, and they said, "Thank you for making us aware. We have been given the wrong master. We will deal with it. You'll get a replacement disc in the post during October." Perfect. That's great news. That's great news. That's this week's new arrival. I mentioned this last week, but we have a brand new rental case to send home for customers, which is really exciting. I love it. It's written designed brilliantly by a young lad called Aaron Larway, who is an absolute genius in terms of art and design, and I think it's an absolutely fantastic thing. I mean, this is what I have been using for the last 10 to 15 years, which was fine. It did a job. But this is next level in terms of quality and look. It's absolutely fantastic. So I'm thrilled to bits with that. So I'm sending those out with every new rental from this week onwards. We have a competition, briefly, competition. The Blu-ray of Crawl Space is now available to order from 88. I think if you look at Amazon UK, you'll see that this is released on September the 30th, but it is in the 88 store as we speak. And yeah, wonderful film. Me and Matty did the audio commentary on that, and we had a few choice words on the life of Klaus Kinski. And it's great. It's a really, really cool film. Competition. You can win yourself a sealed Blu-ray of Crawl Space. Question. What's your favorite Klaus Kinski film and why? Pick anything. Let me know. It's not who picks the best film. It's just, yeah, just give me a good reason as to why you like any specific Klaus Kinski film. Yeah, interesting. But yeah, you can win a copy of Crawl Space. And I will give you the answer next week. Next week's show will be a far more normal show. I hope this hasn't been too boring for you. Apologies for the annoying microphone, which probably has a fair bit of interference in there. And hopefully you found this interesting. I've been dying to do this for quite some time, but never really thought of the best way to do it. Hopefully it wasn't too boring, hopefully there wasn't too much repetition, and hopefully for those of you who can't get here, it gives you a better idea of what this place looks like. And yeah, anything you need to know, anything you want to know, ask me in the comments section. I'll read out last week's comments with this week's comments in next week's show. And yeah, as I say, it's a bit of a better release week next week. Hopefully there's a big parcel over from my US mailbox. Hopefully Severin might actually get their arse into gear and ship me my 20 Blu-rays that I'm desperate to have. And yeah, a few new full moon films as well. So yeah, should be a really interesting show. So I will have that for you as usual in 7 days' time.